COVID-19 has been devastating for many businesses. Some entrepreneurs have shut their doors permanently. Others are determined to adapt. And the founder of an African language school here in Montreal, did you know there was an African languages school here in Montreal? Well, he's convinced his business will not just survive the pandemic, but thrive in the years to come. It's called ELA JAMBO, and Sherry Okeke has been learning all about it this week. Sherry, good morning again.
Good morning, Mike.
What does ELA JAMBO mean?
ELA is an acronym in French. It stands for École des Langues Africaines, and Jambo means hi or hello in Swahili. And so this was explained to me by the founder, who is Guy-Serge, and he told me that ELA JAMBO sounds like welcome to the African Languages School. So he really likes that. And this school is a passion for him professionally and personally. Guy-Serge told me he's originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. His family moved here when he was 9 years old, and he didn't speak any African language at the time. His parents spoke Lingala with each other, but they spoke French to him. So he wound up learning to speak Lingala as a teenager, playing basketball with other Montreal teens.
They grew up in Kinshasa, they speak the Lingala, so I also got the accent of the people that I was playing basketball with. So when I came home one day, and I think my mom was speaking in Lingala. And so not only that I understand what she said, but I talked to her in Lingala. And she was very surprised. She didn't know that that learning Lingala was important for us. At the time in Africa, to go to the school is in French. Even when you talk with your colleagues, we always only speak French. So she didn't really find that the language will be important for us. And since that we came here very young, then, she didn't think that. So when I started learning the language, she was at the same time, she was proud. She was proud that, I did it myself. I went outside and learned the language. And at the same time, she was a bit ashamed because, this is a language that she speaks very well and that she could teach us, her and my dad. But they never knew that learning an African language can interest us like that.
They didn't think they'd be interested in learning it. How did learning Lingala change his relationship with his mom?
It changed the way they communicate. He told me now when he speaks to his mom, it's always in Lingala. And he really loves learning languages. So in 2012, when he was a student at HEC, the graduate business school at Université de Montréal, Guy-Serge decided he wanted to learn Swahili. But he couldn't find a school that taught it.
I ended up calling 70 language schools, like all across Montreal and Quebec, and no one was able to teach me the language. Even some schools on their website, they have Swahili as a language that they offer. But when I called them, they was not able to have me a teacher. So I found that it was impossible to learn an African language like Swahili or another language in Montreal, and I found it very shocking. At the same time, I was going to school and I had a class where I had to do a business project. So I used this information to do my business project. So I went on and do some research, and I found out that there was no school, not only in Quebec but in Canada, that was focusing on African language. So I find there was an opportunity for me to found a school where you can learn African language in Montreal, in Canada.
I love this story because, basically he couldn't find a school in Montreal that taught Swahili, so he created one himself. It's that old adage, necessity, the mother of invention.
Exactly. And so now the school offers courses in 5 languages. So in addition to Swahili, they also teach Wolof, Bambara, Chiluba, and Lingala.
So where's the school located in Montreal, Sherry?
Well, before COVID-19, the classes were located at UQAM. He had about 5 classes with 10 students each. But once everything shut down, he had to move the classes online. So now those classes are being taught through Zoom. And he has fewer classes, fewer teachers. He has 3 classes now with about 5 students each, but he's absolutely determined to continue, hoping to be back in actual classrooms in September. But either way, he's going to continue offering the online classes.
What's the profile of his students?
Well, about half of them are very much like him. Guy-Serge told me that they are Canadians of African descent who never learned their parents' language. On average, they're 28 to 35 years old, or they may already speak one African language and they want to learn another. And he told me about 25% of his students are partners or spouses of Canadians of African descent. So the vast majority of his students are looking to connect with their family's culture and to be able to communicate better with relatives. Guy-Serge hears this a lot of success stories, and he knows the feeling because before he learned Lingala, he couldn't really communicate with his grandmother.
My grandmother, in the other hand, does not speak French, not English. So she speaks Lingala or she speaks Chiluba, which is another language in my country. So my grandmother came here in Canada about 4 years ago, and I'm a person that's very curious about culture and everything. So I was able to speak with her, and it changed a lot of things because she told me a lot of stories about the Congo before the independence, like how the Congolese were living the day-to-day life. And those are stuff that I never read in the books, like books that speak about the Congo before the independence. So those are the stories that if I couldn't speak Lingala, I would never have those stories.
I mean, that is so true about languages, and all of us tend to speak more than one language of Montreal. And you do end up learning so much more about cultures from the language. And there are phrases and concepts that really just don't exist in the other language. And those really stand out. I'm thinking, for instance, in Portuguese, saudade just doesn't even exist. Like you're scrambling, trying to figure out, well, what does that mean? And it tells you a lot about the people.
Absolutely. And Guy-Serge says we learn so much about the philosophies within different cultures that way. He gave me an example of a common verb that simply does not exist in Lingala.
In Lingala mentality, like you don't have something. You like everything that you have in your life, it's always something that, it's not yours. It's always something that you have for the moment. So the verb to have doesn't exist. So I want to say I have a car. I'm going to say nazali na mutuka. I want to say I have a house. I'm going to say nazali na ndako. I want to say I have 5 children. I'm going to say nazali na bana mitano. I'm saying that I am with. I am with a car. I am with a house. I am with 5 children. So those are all notions of the philosophy, of the way of thinking of people, of the first people that spoke the language 100 years ago. That if we don't really study those languages, that we don't know.
And it tells you so much about the way a culture speaks. I'm thinking of in Spanish, for instance, where there are 2 verbs to be because some states are just so transitory, and that's not a concept that really communicates as easily, for instance, in English. You said about 3/4 of students at ELA JAMBO are either of African descent or the partner of someone who is of African descent. What about the rest of them?
They're people who are interested for work-related reasons. So journalists, humanitarian workers, doctors, lawyers, people who go to Africa to work or communicate with people in Africa. Jaron Chalier is a Carleton University student in Ottawa, and he started taking Lingala classes at ELA JAMBO when he was in Montreal for an internship. He's a Canadian with American and Swiss citizenship who, during his high school years, he lived in Kinshasa, but he didn't learn Lingala at the time and always wanted to. So now he's studying international relations and African studies, and he hopes to use Lingala professionally one day. And already it's been fun for him on a personal level. He told me about meeting a classmate who speaks Lingala with her parents at home and was shocked to meet a non-African student who could chat in her mother tongue. It all started out with a Kahoot. That's a type of online quiz done in classrooms.
And we had to pick our username. So as a joke, I just put up, Nzambe, it means literally God. But when you say like, oh my God, oh my goodness, you can say Nzambe Nanga. So when I put it up there as just like a fun joke, and so I heard from behind me in the class, wait, who wrote Nzambe? Who? Somebody just put that up there, and they're trying to figure out who it was, And by the end of the Kahoot, I decided to just go up and say hi, and it was like, I'm the one who wrote Nzambe. It totally took her by surprise. But I thought it was a cool thing. This upcoming fall semester, I'm also tentatively accepted to an internship in Washington, D.C. for African foreign policy. And part of the reason that they really liked my resume, my application, was because I specified I've been taking Lingala lessons. And so I clarified, whether or not there's a chance to actually use Lingala during work. And they said that there actually would, following news, following politician speeches. And that's an internship I hope will work out.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I'm really excited to talk about all this. I hope more people also sign up for some Lingala lessons.
For now, Sherry, they're teaching only 3 classes as opposed to the usual 5 per session. But how does Guy-Serge feel about the growth prospects?
He's very positive. It was a scramble to quickly move online, but they continue to work on that offering to build on that. They'll keep it even once regular classes can resume. He says he's getting a lot of email requests and so many requests for kids classes that's part of his plan for 2021 is to offer classes to children. So it may take a bit longer than originally planned, but he's absolutely determined.
One of African language, maybe Swahili or Wolof, because they're the ones that spoken by a lot of person, or maybe Lingala. I want to make them popular, not only for Africans, but for everybody. Like we learn, Spanish and English and French. So this is my dream. I really want those languages to be on front, because if we learn the language, and we also learn the structure, the way the language is, I think we're going to learn a lot of things about human nature and stuff like that. So I really want that. This is my dream.
The school's called ELA JAMBO, and we'll tweet out a link. Sherry Okeke, thank you very much.
Thank you.